Hello, world. This is Sexy Flannel Guy coming at you again today. Of course, I'm wearing flannel, but not buffalo check today. And I continue to listen to the news, to monitor the news, and I continue to watch anti-Semitism escalate. Anti-Semitism means Jew hatred. It's racism against Jews. And the anti-Semitism around the world is expanding, it's accelerating, it's replicating like a virus. So I want to submit to you the following, that this is not just a war against Israel, against the Jewish state. This is a global war against Jews. If you don't see it, you're not paying attention. I mentioned yesterday about yelling Itbach al-Yehud in the streets, you kill the Jews, and killed a Jew in the streets in Arabic. I talked about Paris, I talked about London, I've talked about New York City, Harvard University, Princeton University, now New York State University, is what's it called, SUNY, SUNY campuses. It's coming out of the news so quickly that a person cannot really follow it. I mean, I've got to go feed my animals now. I just got back from work. I have some of my own papers to write because I'm taking further classes at night because I'm a fool. I never stop, I guess. So I have a whole evening of responsibilities I have to take care of. And I literally cannot sit on the news watching as more evidence of more protests on American universities by students who are supporting Hamas. And Hamas is a terror organization. It's a fascist organization. It's like the Nazis, Yamach Shmom V'Zichrom. Hamas is in charge, is the ruling class, the ruling people of Gaza. I said yesterday that the Gazans voted for these people knowing they were terrorists. The Gazans on the street are hugging these terrorists as they drag victims into the streets, young women that are almost exhausted on the point of death, and they're being hugged and yelling Allahu Akbar. This is not a minority of people, Hamas. It is whether you want to call the Arabs of Gaza Gazans or Palestinians, whichever identity you want to slap on these people, because American news doesn't really get the different Arab factions there, like I talked about yesterday, ad infinitum. Whatever label you want to slap on those people, they are actually in full support of what's happening even to them. You know, they believe they're going to heaven. They believe in their reward. They've been totally indoctrinated for the last 17 years in the Gaza schools. What's going on here, folks? And university students in our American universities are issuing statements blaming the Jews for the attacks on Hamas and the Palestinians. Come on, people. It's ignorance of history. It's ahistorical. It's anti-historical. I could stand right up here off the top of my head and give you a whole historical rundown in why the Jews are the indigenous people of Israel. And yes, we got a nation state back in 1948. It was our old new country. It wasn't a new country. We're not settlers. The settlers are the Arabs. Arabs are indigenous to Arabia, and the Jews are indigenous to Judea, Yehuda, and Shomron, which the world calls the West Bank of Jordan. We are the indigenous people of Israel. End of story, okay? And here we are, we're on Simchas Torah, we're in a Jewish holiday and Shabbos on October 7th, and we get attacked again. You know, the Yom Kippur War, this was 50 years since the Yom Kippur War. Yom Kippur is the most serious, important Jewish holiday of the year. So, and we were attacked. This was a full-on war in 1967. So what these Muslims do is they attack us on our holy days, and they decapitate the children, they decapitate people. We've seen the evidence of decapitation. Decapitation is the preferred way of death, according to the Quran. There's example after example in the Quran of decapitation, so they try to emulate the Prophet, and that's what they do, okay? Now, I would ask you, in the face of all this anti-Semitism we're seeing on campuses,
I would ask you the following questions. When have you ever heard of Jews engaged in decapitations, the burning of young children? You've never seen Israelis drag Arabs through the street after being beaten up and raped and to cheers. This does not happen in the Jewish standards and Jewish morality. It doesn't happen in Israel, the Jewish state. It doesn't happen among Jews in the diaspora. It does not happen. But it's happening en masse over there in certain parts of the Arab world that surround the Jewish state. And instead of the world coming to the defense of the Jews, here we go again, just like World War II, 1939 to 1945. We're seeing this all over again. We're seeing the escalation, the amplification of attacks on Jews outside of Israel. I mean, literally globally. You've got students now who Jewish students who are afraid to come out of their dorm rooms. They're calling 911. You have got Jewish students on campus making calls to the FBI for protection. You have leaders on American university campuses asking for Jews to identify themselves. To the point where someone showed up at the UN recently with the yellow star and said never again. He was outing himself as a Jew. Okay, and the world is not sticking up for the Jews again. Again, we've seen this movie. This movie has been played not only 80 years ago, but this movie has been played over and over again if you follow history, if you're a history buff, okay? And now I'm going to speak to my audience who's on the political left. If you are watching this and you're on the political left, I just want to remind you of the following. The Gazan Arabs in Gaza, so I'm hesitating with all these identities because you want me to say Palestinian, but to me Palestinians are in the Palestinian Authority areas. But whatever word you want to use to call the Arabs of Gaza, they're not going to have a gay rights parade. They're not going to honor same-sex marriages. They're not going to honor equal education for women. If you consider yourself a feminist or a womanist, and I know people in my life right now who talk like they're feminists and womanists, right? I would ask you the following. Are you going to support a culture that subjugates women the way Hamas does, the way Hezbollah does in the north, in Lebanon, backed by Iran? These societies do not back women. They do not back gays. They do not back any of these identities that you on the political left claim you champion. You claim you're the champion of all these different groups. And yet the Hamas and Hezbollah, the radical Muslims, they're all against this stuff. Gay men are thrown off of rooftops in the Middle East. Wherever there's a Muslim majority, you see the killing of Jews, the subjugation of women, the torture of homosexuals, and I could go on and on and on. So the points I'm making are directly at the political left that are hypocrites that will not speak out for international human rights. Where do you get international human rights in the Middle East? You get them in Israel. Palestinians are going to be killed in Jordan, and they go across the border in Israel, get asylum, and they march in the gay pride parades in Tel Aviv. Everyone in the Middle East knows if you're going to be gay or lesbian that you go to Israel or you'll be protected or you leave for a Western country. You don't stay in those Arab majority countries. I should say Muslim majority countries. This is a known thing in the Middle East. And everyone knows in women, the most highly educated Arabs in the Middle East are in Israel, the country of Israel, which is officially a Jewish state. The most highly educated Arab women in the Middle East are once again in Israel, who get free education all the way to the PhD. It is mind-boggling the number of female Arabs that are graduating with PhDs at the University of Jerusalem. So don't you know these statistics? The place to optimize your human potential, your human freedoms, are going to be in the nation of Israel. It's not going to happen in the surrounding Arab nations. And yet you folks on the political left, you're the one always siding with these radical Muslims. It is crazy to me. You should be on the side of the Jews. You should be on the side of the Israelis. But I want to end this video now because we're closing on 10 minutes, eh? And as far as in America, where Jewish students are now afraid, they're fleeing campuses, they're hiding behind doors, they're calling the FBI, they're being asked to identify themselves on U.S. campuses. This is well beyond protest. This is way beyond freedom of speech, folks. This is about safety. This is a time we need to cut off all federal funds to our American universities that put Jewish lives in danger, or anyone's lives in danger for that matter, right? If there were any subgroup of American individuals who's going through this much distress right now, cut off the federal funds. Make these universities pay the piper, right? Make them stand up for whatever their values are. If these universities, we've seen what happened at Harvard University. What was the university from yesterday? It slips my mind right now. These university administrators are backing up the fascist group Hamas. Well, let them stand on that record and stop federal funding, because I am a taxpayer. I pay a lot of federal taxes. And if you're watching this and you're an older person like me, you probably do as well. Young people pay less taxes because they make less money. When we get older, we're better situated. We pay more taxes. And I expect my taxes not to be spent on the persecution of a certain minority group in America. In this case, it's the Jewish students. And sometimes Jewish professors that are chased off of campus. So we need to halt once and forever all federal funding going to these universities that are issuing these ridiculous statements on the side of the fascists and making Jews run and hide. Again, we've seen this movie before, and it should not be tolerated. And with that, I bid you farewell from the magnificent North.